What if I told you that the man at the helm of one of the world's most powerful institutions, the Catholic Church, could step down tomorrow? Pope Francis, the most unconventional pope of our time, is facing mounting pressure to resign. But the real question isn't just when he'll step down, it's who will take his place, and how the decision could divide the church like never before. Stay with us, because the battle for the next papacy has already begun, and its outcome might shock you. For over 2,000 years, the Catholic Church has shaped history, inspired billions, and stood as a symbol of faith and power. But today, it faces some of its greatest challenges yet. Scandals, declining influence in the West, and deep divisions over the future of the Church. And at the center of it all is an aging Pope, and the question no one can answer. What happens next? Will Pope Francis be remembered as the revolutionary leader who brought reform to the Church, or as the figurehead who presided over its most turbulent era? And if he resigns, who will become the next Pope? Will it be the first ever Asian Pope, a controversial hardliner, or a dark horse no one sees coming? One thing is certain, the outcome of this papal transition can change the course of history for millions. Let's dive into the extraordinary story of Pope Francis, the rumors surrounding his resignation, and the battle for the future of the Catholic Church. Long before he became Pope Francis, George Mario Bergoglio was an ordinary young man in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Born in 1936 to Italian immigrant parents, he grew up in a modest home, the eldest of 5 children. But here's something you might not know. Before hearing the call to priesthood, Bergoglio worked as a chemical technician and even briefly dated. Yes, the man who would become one of the most humble and spiritual leaders of our time once had dreams of a very different life. So what changed? What led this ordinary young man to join the Jesuits and eventually become the first pope from the Americas? The answer lies in a moment of divine inspiration. It was during a confession at age 17 that Bergoglio felt the call to priesthood. He will later say that this moment, a sudden sense of clarity and peace, set him on a path that would change not only his life, but the lives of millions. But Bergoglio's journey to the top wasn't without controversy. During Argentina's dirty war in the 1970s, he faced allegations of complicity with a military dictatorship. While some accused him of turning a blind eye, others credited him for secretly saving lives. This chapter remains one of the most debated aspects of his life and would resurface decades later during his papacy. But what made Bergoglio stand out wasn't his past, it was his vision for the future. In 2013, when Pope Benedict XVI resigned in a shocking move, the College of Cardinals turned to a man known for his humility, compassion, and reformist ideas. Bergoglio became Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope in history and the first to take the name of the beloved saint of the poor. From the moment he stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Francis made one thing clear: this would not be a traditional papacy. He rejected a lavish papal apartment in favor of a modest guest house. He chose a silver ring over gold and spoke not as a ruler, but as a servant of the people. His priorities were clear: social justice, care of the poor, and environmental stewardship. But not everyone was on board. Behind the scenes, resistance to Francis' reforms began almost immediately, and this tension between progressives and traditionalists continues to shape the church today. At 88 years old, Pope Francis' health has become a focal point of concern. In recent years, he has undergone surgery for colon issues, struggled with a debilitating knee pain, and has increasingly relied on a wheelchair during public appearances. Despite this, he has maintained a rigorous schedule, traveling across continents and addressing critical issues facing the church. But here's what's surprising. Pope Francis himself discussed the possibility of resignation. In 2021, he told reporters, "I might step down if I feel like I can't carry out my duties." And with every passing year, the likelihood of that grows. To understand what makes this moment so extraordinary, you have to look at history. Papal resignations are exceedingly rare. The most famous example, of course, is Pope Benedict in 2013, who cited his declining health. But before Benedict, the last pope to resign was Gregory in 1415, over 600 years ago. The question now is not just whether Francis will resign, but what kind of legacy he will leave behind if he does. Will he be remembered as a revolutionary reformer, or as a divisive figure in an already divided church. If Pope Francis steps down, the College of Cardinals will gather in a conclave to elect the next Pope. But who are the frontrunners? Let's take a closer look at the papal, the men most likely to wear the papal white. First, there is Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State. Known as the Church Chief Diplomat, Parolin has played a key role in negotiations with China, which have drawn both praise and criticism. His political savvy is unmatched, but some worry his focus on diplomacy could overshadow spiritual matters. Next is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines, often referred to as the Asian Francis. With his warmth, humility, and focus on marginalized, Tagle embodies many of the values championed by Francis. But his age, he's only 68, could make him a wild card in the eyes of the cardinals. Then there is Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, an Italian known for his work in peace building and interfaith dialogue. Zuppi has worked with the Sant'Egidio community, a lay organization dedicated to humanitarian efforts. His approach could make him a unifying figure in a polarized church. But here's the twist. The next pope might not be on anyone's radar. In 1978, Cardinal Karol Wojtyla of Poland, a relative outsider, was elected, becoming Pope John Paul II. Could we see another dark horse candidate emerge? Whoever becomes the next pope will inherit a church facing enormous challenges. In the West, secularization is taking its toll. Attendance at Mass has dropped significantly in places like Europe and the United States. But in Africa and Asia, the church is booming, with increasing numbers of new converts and a growing influence. The next pope will need to balance these divergent trends, navigating the decline of the West while embracing the expansion of the global South. But there is an even bigger challenge looming, the crisis of SA within the church. Will the next pope finally tackle this issue head on, or will the shadows of past scandals continue to haunt the Vatican? The SA crisis continues to overshadow the Catholic Church. Despite Pope Francis' efforts to reform the Vatican's handling of abuse cases, many survivors still feel the Church has not done enough to hold the abusers accountable. The next pope will be under immense pressure to take decisive action to restore trust and credibility. And it's not just the scandal that's problematic. The Church is also grappling with intense ideological divisions over issues like LGBTQ rights, the role of women, and divorce. The next pope will have to decide whether to move forward with reforms or hold fast to traditional teachings. One of the most continuous issues is the role of women in the Church. Pope Francis has made some strides, including creating a commission to study the possibility of female deacons. But many feel the Church has been slow to truly empower women. Will the next pope embrace change or continue the tradition of male-dominated leadership? This isn't just about theology. It's about the church future. Women make up a significant portion of the Catholic Church followers. The next pope's stance on gender issues could determine the church's relevance in the 21st century. And then there is the issue of climate change. Pope Francis has been a vocal advocate for environmental sustainability, even publishing an encyclical Laudato Si that called for urgent action on climate change. The next pope will have to decide whether to continue Francis' bold stance or take a more conservative approach. But the challenges don't stop there. The church must also respond to the rise of populism, increasing religious intolerance, and the global refugee crisis. Whoever the next pope is, they will need to be a global leader, able to speak to the crisis of today while also offering a vision for the future. All eyes will be on the Vatican when the time comes for the conclave, a secretive process by which cardinals elect a new pope. And while it may seem like a mystery to the outside world, there are certain things we can predict. The College of Cardinals, which is composed of roughly 120 men under the age of 80, is responsible for electing the pope. These cardinals are chosen for their leadership and expertise within the church. But while some are seen as progressive and others as conservatives, the decision is often more complex. Many cardinals are influenced by the church's need for reform or stability, depending on their country of origin and their views on Vatican politics. So who will the cardinals favor? A reformer like Pope Francis, a traditionalist who can help restore order, or someone who might surprise us all? The papal election is a deeply ritualized process. The cardinals gather in the Sistine Chapel, where they swear on an oath of secrecy. Each cardinal casts a ballot, and after each round of voting, the ballots are burned. If a pope is selected, the smoke turns white, a signal to the world that a new pope has been chosen. But don't expect a quick decision. The process can take days or even weeks. The world awaits, as the future of the church is decided in one of the most solemn moments in history. The next pope will face some of the most profound challenges the Catholic Church has ever faced. Whether they continue the work of Pope Francis or choose an entirely different path, their decision will shape not only the future of the church, but also the world at large. Will the next pope bridge the divides within the church, or will they become embroiled in even more controversies? Will they inspire a new generation of faithful, or further alienate those already disillusioned within the Vatican? Those are questions we all are having. But after days of intense deliberations, the world holds its breath. The cardinals have cast their ballots, and now the waiting begins. Will the conclave favor a leader of continuity, or will they choose someone to challenge the status quo? As the smoke rises from the Sistine Chapel, it becomes clear. The next pope has been chosen. It's white smoke. The decision has been made. And in an unexpected turn of events, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines emerges as the new leader of the Catholic Church. Tagle, often dubbed the Asian Francis for his similar focus on the poor and marginalized, has been elected as Pope. At just a remarking 68 years old, his election marks a new chapter for the Church, and one that promises both continuity with Pope Francis' legacy and a fresh global vision for the future. Pope Tagle's election is a historic moment for the Church. As the first Filipino Pope and the first from Asia, his election signals a shift in the Church's global perspective. Within growing Catholic population in Asia and Africa, Tagle's leadership represents a recognition that the Catholic Church is no longer dominated by Europe or the West. It is now a truly global church. But will his leadership be as revolutionary as Pope Francis's, or will he face the same challenges that his predecessors did? Divisions within the church, external scandals, and the looming question of how to navigate the modern world while holding on to tradition. In his first days as Pope, Pope Tagle will waste no time making his mark. He reaffirms the importance of dialogue between faiths, continuing his outreach that Pope Francis began. His first message calls for a renewed commitment to social justice, addressing poverty and prioritizing care of the marginalized. But not everyone is on board. Traditionalists, once again, fear that his progressive stance may alienate the faithful who hold firmly to the Church's traditional doctrines. And within the SA crisis, still looming over the Vatican, the new Pope will have no shortage of problems to tackle. One of Pope Tagle's first acts is to embark on a global tour, visiting the growing Catholic communities in Africa and Asia. His message is one of hope and renewal. He called for the global church to focus not only on the spiritual, but on the practical, fighting hunger, addressing climate change, and standing in solidarity with the most vulnerable. But even as he becomes the symbol of hope for millions, challenges commitment to mount, can Pope Tagle manage to keep the peace between progressives and traditionalists? Can he bring real reform to the church without alienating its core basis? As Pope Tagle takes on the mantle of leadership, the future of the Catholic Church remains uncertain. Will he prove to be the reformer the church needs in these turbulent times? Will he be able to navigate the church's deep internal divisions and continue the work of his predecessors? Or will his papacy take the church in a new direction altogether? The next few years will be critical in determining not only the future of the Catholic Church, but the role it will play on the global stage. Pope Tagle's election is a reminder that the church is far from static. It is a living, evolving institution shaped by the people it serves. And as the first Asian Pope, he has the unique opportunity to shape the church for the next generation of faithful. In the end, the election of Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle as Pope represents not just a shift in leadership, but a symbolic moment in the church's ongoing journey. The faithful around the world watch with hope, knowing that the future of the church is in the hands of a leader who understands both the struggles and the potential of the global Catholic community. And so, a new era begins. Pope Tagle's journey is just beginning, and the world waits to see where his papacy will lead. The road ahead is uncertain, but with his vision and leadership, Catholic Church may just find a new path forward that leads to healing, renewal, and a stronger, more united faith. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the papal transition. Make sure to subscribe for more updates and stay with us as we continue to watch history unfold.